quite a while now, I have entertained the idea that most, if not all, the visions John recorded in the book of Revelation have long since been fulfilled and remain up to this present time. One such case in point, the Great White Throne Judgment. Though tradition advances the idea that a Great White Throne Judgment is coming, I'm inclined to believe that it began when Jesus was here on earth almost 2,000 years ago. Consider what Jesus says to two of the churches in Revelation. "And he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations. He shall rule them with a rod of iron. They shall be dashed to pieces like the potter's vessels, as I also have received from my Father. To him who overcomes I will grant to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne." Based on these passages, Christ is currently on his throne at the right hand of God, known as the right hand of power, and has been ever since his baptism by John the Baptist. This being true, why would he wait to bring judgment for an undetermined amount of time spanning hundreds of years? Yet, this is the picture we're given by tradition. The book of Revelation is a book of symbols, and all agree it is a prophetic book. If this is true, then when is it to be fulfilled? In the very first verse, John recorded what must occur swiftly. For you and me, then, is it not at all plausible that most of it was fulfilled in the past, leading to where we are today? Now, let's go to Revelation chapter 20 to look at the Great White Throne Judgment and the scrolls. These passages are from the Concordant Literal New Testament. "And I perceived a great white throne, and him who is sitting upon it, from whose face earth and heaven fled, and no place was found for them. And I perceived the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne. And scrolls were opened. And another scroll was opened, which is the scroll of life. And the dead were judged by that which is written in the scrolls, in accord with their acts. And the sea gives up the dead in it, and death and the unseen give up the dead in them. And they were condemned, each in accord with their acts. And death and the unseen were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone was not found written in the scroll of life, he was cast into the lake of fire." There are several things to consider here, but first and foremost is the fact that we see scrolls opened, followed by another scroll, which is the scroll of life. How are the dead judged? By that which is written in the scrolls in accord with their acts. The NASB renders this as according to their deeds. To further emphasize this thought we read, "And the sea gives up the dead in it, and death and the unseen give up the dead in them, and they were condemned, each in accord with their acts." Twice we're told that the dead are judged, not just by what is written in the scrolls, but according to their deeds. Of course, it is this from which springs such fanciful ideas as a huge white throne with an innumerable multitude before it, where Christ goes through every deed of our lives and decides whether we're fit for heaven or destined for, that other place. Friend, I believe nothing could be further from the truth. Look at it again. The dead are judged by that which is written in the scrolls in accord with their acts. How did the Lord begin his messages or prophecies to each of the 7 churches? "I know your works," that is, your acts, your deeds. Now, let's step into Galatians and consider one of the most profound truths that we can consider. "Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption, but the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap Aeonian life." I'm sure you recognize this principle. How does Paul introduce it? Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Pretty sobering words, right? He then states in no uncertain terms, whatever one sows, that will he also reap, and follows with the twofold outcome of either sowing to our own flesh or sowing to the Spirit. Does sowing refer to works or acts? It does. For Paul continues with, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. How are the dead judged? In accord with their acts. How is this accomplished? Through the divine and universal principle of sowing and reaping. In keeping with this idea, note the following. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. And if you call on the Father, who without partiality judges according to each one's work, conduct yourselves throughout the time of your stay here in fear. As we see, I've taken the liberty of adding sowing and reaping to both passages. Is it not evident that every person, regardless of belief, receives or reaps according to their works, or what they sow? No wonder Paul says, do not be deceived, God is not mocked. And the judgment seat of Christ? Is this not his present position at the right hand of the Father? Isn't that the point of being on a throne? It's interesting that the phrase judgment seat is found 12 times in the King James New Testament. 12 just happens to be the number of divine governance. So again, how are the dead judged? By what is written in the scrolls in accord with their acts. And what is the first thing Jesus says to each church? I know your works. In other words, I know beforehand what you will and won't do. After all, isn't that the nature of prophecy, to know and accurately predict the future? So, might the prophecies of Christ to the 7 churches be what transpires as the 7 seals are opened, corresponding to what everybody calls the Great White Throne Judgment? Isn't this why Christ gives certain promises and assurances in each prophecy to the one who overcomes? Now, go with me to the first few verses of Revelation. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants things which must shortly take place. And he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John, who bore witness to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, to all things that he saw. Blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. Friend, the book of Revelation is the revelation of Jesus Christ, given in symbols to John to show to his bondservants the things which must soon take place. So important was it that John recorded, blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. The words of this prophecy, the one John is about to receive. When did John write this book? In the 1st century. Think about that. Furthermore, we have a threefold injunction, where 3 is the number of a complete witness. Now, consider what the Lord tells John. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet, saying, Write what you see in a book and or scroll, and send it to the 7 churches. Write what you see in a book or scroll and send it to the 7 churches. So, following John's recording of these visions, they are then sent to each of the 7 churches. Why? For those who would read, hear, and keep the things written in it. Going forward, note that scroll is rendered book in these passages. And behold, I am coming soon. Blessed is the one who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book. He said to me, You must not do that. I am a fellow servant with you and your brothers the prophets, and with those who keep the words of this book. And he said to me, Do not seal up the words of the prophecy of this book, for the time is near. I warn everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to them, God will add to him the plagues described in this book. If anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God will take away his share in the tree of life and in the holy city, which are described in this book. In agreement with things which must shortly take place, in Revelation 1:1, John is told by Christ, I am coming soon, in Revelation 22:7. This book, found 6 times in Revelation 22. 6 is the number of man in his enmity with Christ. And isn't the purpose of judgment to remove this enmity? And should there be any doubt as to which book or scroll, the final statement seals the deal. It's the scroll describing the tree of life and the holy city. John describes both throughout Revelation, but especially in chapter 21 and verses 2:7, 22:2, and 14. The book is the book of the Revelation itself, the one sealed with 7 seals in the Father's right hand in Revelation 5:1, the one Christ is found worthy to open and loose. Is it not the opening of the seals of this book that sets everything in motion? I will close at this point, but be sure to join me for the next video study. And I sincerely thank you for being a part of Grain of Wheat Publishing.